Good morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program with personalities, politicians, and perspectives. This morning we have two of the three. No, yeah, we'll have two of the three because they're not. Well, now, wait a minute. One of the gentlemen is kind of a politician.
Are you going to include the rest of us in your conversation or just talk
I'm just
to yourself?
thinking to myself, we do have a politician aboard, and that's a pretty good thing. You three Democrats in Golden County, you can go ahead and go feed the cat or something. We have Larry Collins with us this morning. Well-written young man. He could write for the New York Times, by golly. So, before further ado, why don't you introduce our guest? Half of which I just already did.
Yes, I'd be right proud to do that. We have Susan Hoblitt with us. She's from here in Atlanta for generations.
Well, she's not here for generations. You can tell by looking how bright she is.
She's rather attractive, isn't she?
Oh, don't say rather.
Yes, she's a local community activist and from beyond as well. Susan's been very active in so many things, and that's what we're going to be talking about. And her husband is Larry Collins. Bill has already said that he's a columnist. He's also a broadcaster, a flight instructor, a flower pot filler, and jack of all trades.
Correct.
So I guess we can't even narrow it down, can we?
I think you could probably add master of all trades because what he does very well. So.
Well, I still haven't decided what I want to do when I grow up. So.
It's nice to keep your options open.
That's true.
Yes, my goodness. Well, we're awfully happy to have you with us today, and I'm sure that everybody knows Susan Hoblitt's name because your family first came to America in 1764, and you've been here since not long after that. Right here, and we were just talking before we came on the air, Larry was born in this state and grew up in that state and the other state, and I'm kind of the same way, but Bill and Miss Hoblitt have been here forever. Well, and Jim Ash, too, our best friend
he's got
here.
Roots down here, you bet.
Yeah, you bet he has. But you were talking about there are 40 flower pots uptown, Susan, that you've been filling. And that's not just this year, is it?
No. 17 years ago, I had ideas swirling in my head. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if Atlanta had a flower pot at the entrance to each business? Now, there weren't that many businesses, so I thought, okay, probably 12 flower pots would catch pretty much everything. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to put that out there and see if anybody's interested. Well, I ended up the first year with 24 flower pots and 24 what I call flower buds. Just we're buddies, we like to garden, and that launched it. And this year we're putting out 40 flower pots.
Oh my.
And we're still got the 24, and we're looking for new pots, for new buds, of course.
You know, I'm sitting here thinking, what the end result of having somebody like a Susan Hoblitt in a community like the size of Atlanta. And I think of people who are loyal to their community. And a personal story about that, Susan. I had in the dry cleaning business a good number of years ago, and one of my very good customers was Dr. Lynn Igems from up here in Atlanta. And I missed him for a while, and I said, let's check on him. And so I saw him on the street one day. And we visited, and I said, Doctor, I've missed your business here recently. Have we done anything wrong? I want to make sure we're doing it. No, he says, Bill, Dick Quinley started a dry cleaning plant up there in Atlanta, and he says, I thought I ought to support my local guy. Now, that says volumes, and there was no answer I had for that except an appreciation for his attitude.
You know, in Atlanta, like Lincoln, like all the small towns, it was from people that came and to where there was basically nothing, and they started something, and they gave their all to it, and a lot of those projects are still going. and there's a lot of loyalty there.
Yeah, small town loyalty is really, really neat. Now, Susan, the first Hoblitt ancestor came to America when?
1764. I have a short little. They were adventurers.
They had to be. All
Let's
those
just
folks
do
in those
it.
times.
Who knows what's out there? Let's go see. But I have a short little story about him. His name was Johann Michael Hoblitt. He was from Germany. Somehow he made it from Germany to Holland, and he boarded a ship, and he sailed to America. Been a lot of research done on our family genealogy, and one thing we have is the ship's records for that voyage to America. And those records tell us that Johann, he could not read or speak English, and he was under the age of 16.
Think of that now. And that's just one episode that happened back those years ago. These teenagers and kids like that just get on ship and come over here, not knowing what they're doing. They're leaving from something to something, quote better, hopefully.
Right.
Let's go on adventure.
You think of the intrepid attitude that those people had to take.
Amazing.
Have stories come down to you through the ages? My family all came from Norway, and it would be my great grandparents all came from Norway and settled in southern Minnesota, where everybody was Norwegian. I guess they didn't let them in if they weren't. So they all married Norwegians and so forth. But you know, what an adventure, what a daring, what kind of people were these people? What do you hear? What stories do you hear about him?
He obviously made it to America. He fought in the Revolutionary War. He got married, and he had 10 children.
10 children.
10 children. He took it on. And those
They had
children.
more time on their hands then.
Yeah.
No late night show.
But the children, 10 children were adventurers as well, and spread out across what was to become the United States of America. And a bunch of them settled in Ohio. And so in 1826, and I finally did the math and thought that's 195 years ago, they were living in Ohio, and they were hearing about the Northwest Territory. You could go to the Northwest Territory, homestead on 80 acres, and get a land grant. Sound pretty good. Let's go. So my great-great-grandfather and his father thought, we're going to do it. My great-great-grandfather was 21 years old. His father was 45 years old. And so one thing they had to figure out was, between the two of them, it was a 300-mile trip. 2 people, they had 1 horse. Oh well, let's go. So probably my great-great-grandfather Samuel walked the majority of the 300 miles, but they made it.
Yeah, they was awful saddle sore, one of the two.
Yep. And they settled just about 1.5 miles east of what is now Atlanta. There was no Atlanta, there was no Logan County. There was a creek and a timber, and they homesteaded there, built a cabin, and after a year said, hey, I have an idea. Let's go back and get the family, see if they want to come. By that time, they had saved enough money to buy a second horse.
Think of that.
Back to Ohio. And my great-great-grandfather married his sweetheart, Abigail Downey, who became quite a force in the family. And so they were, almost all of the Hoblitt family came to this area in 1827. And Abigail's family came as well. And they had a they must have had quite a wagon train coming west by then. We have one of the wagons, still
Oh, do
have
you?
one of the wagons that they came in, and it's painted bright green. I mean, they were on adventure. They were having fun. Let's
And
go
that-
out to the Northwest Territory, and you know, many of them state claims here and got land grants.
You know, I often think, well, not often, but periodically I'll come up with a little thought in the way back, inner reaches of that blank part back there. And I think of those folks who homesteaded, came out from the east, not a clue as to where we're headed or what we have ahead of us, but it's a chance to improve. And they took that very, very faint chance. And many of them are very successful, such as the Hoblitt family. They came in by a dint of hard work and being some smarts. They made themselves something of themselves. Others weren't so lucky; they fell off the tee. But you stop and think of the intrepidity. How did I spell that?
I'm not familiar with the word.
The fact that these folks were intrepid.
Intrepid, yeah.
Fearless.
there's Starship
Anyway.
Enterprise, I think, is what that was.
It took a lot of that. It took a lot of moxie. It took a daring do attitude to start that way. So those folks, you know, and they're the people who laid the seeds for what we're now here in 2021.
Just think of how resourceful they had to be.
Now, your lineage is very, very important to the growth of the county, because the Hoblitts did a lot of things around here. First Hoblitt came to Homestead in Illinois, then they went back to Ohio to bring their family. Now, some of them could have said, I ain't going back. So. You have to think of the can-do attitudes that people had back then. And the other thing about it is the mundaneness of the equipment that they had. I mean, it was so simple. Today, Hoblitts get on a tractor that costs $100,000 and go across the field, and they don't think a thing of it.
What size farms did the first Hoblitts in this area have?
My understanding was that you could claim 80 acres.
Yes.
And then you would, once you settled it, you would get a land grant. And I would like to say too that there were Indians here at the time.
Oh yeah, sure.
And
Who knew how they thought?
the Hoblitts were friends with the Indians. They had no problems with the Indians.
Can you give us an example of one of the stories that you've heard tell?
Well, the Hoblitts had a little fair-haired boy, and the Indians were just fascinated by the fair skin, and I guess that would mean blonde hair, and they would come over and visit with the little boy, and it eventually evolved, so could we take him back with us for today? They said, parents said yes, so they would take him for a day. That little boy became so attached to his Indian friends that when the Indians were moved out west, he missed them so much. And when he became a grown man, he located that tribe. I believe they were out in Texas. He went out there and he bought a plot of land next to the reservation and lived there the rest of his life.
Is that right?
That's interesting. That's the first person.
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
But just think how fascinated they must have been with a little boy with white hair.
They'd never seen anything like that.
Sure.
you know,
They thought he was a mutant.
the Lincoln enthusiasts, those who study Abraham and all the lore and the history that goes back with Mr. Lincoln, know that he stayed at the Hoblit Farms as he wrote about the county. And he stayed in a farm out here, probably within a good baseball throw here. Well, not Larry's arm, not mine. But in any event, that's an interesting thing to have the President of the United States stay Well, he wasn't president at the time, of course.
Right.
But there's a little history in the Hoblitt family about that.
It started back when the Hoblitts first came to the Northwest Territory here, and the land that they settled on just happened to be adjacent to a road that later became the 8th Judicial Circuit Road. Mm-hmm. And so there aren't that many people in the area, so when the lawyers of the 8th Judicial Circuit made their ride, they came right by the Hoblitt homestead. The Hoblitts are builders. They love to build especially big things. And they had built a 2-story house there that was quite large, and they would host the circuit riders as they came through. And that's how they first got to know Lincoln. And then Lincoln got to know the children, the Hoblitt children that were growing up there, and as they made their claims, he knew them, and he would always stop by when he was in the area, and they remained friends their whole life. There was one time when he came to the farm and to see the Hoblitts, and they had a fire. And they said, "We're so sorry, we cannot put you up tonight, but we'll ride over to the neighbors and see if they can put you up." And his reply was, "No, I came here to see you. So I'll just sleep in the carriage shed tonight."
And that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
We've still got that little shed on our farm. We now
You
call
do.
it the
Is that
Lincoln,
right?
the Lincoln shed. But the family was also living in kind of what you would call a shed while the house was being repaired. And so Lincoln slept in the shed that night.
Now, there's another little thing. You talk about building a house. We didn't have any RP Lumbers in those days, or Ace Hardware to run down and pick up a dozen screws or anything. Those things were built from scratch, so to speak.
Got a story.
That's just another story to think how they did that.
There was a creek nearby, and so they thought, hey, let's just build a sawmill and cut down some of the trees from the timber, and then they would use the water from the creek and then saw this into logs or to planks, and haul it up and build a house.
You know, I'm sitting here thinking, Susan and Larry. Larry's been in broadcasting before, and I've sat here and violated the 2 tendencies we have here. Number 1, we have sponsors, and at this point we haven't done a doggone thing about recognizing them. We're going to let Mr. Ice take care of that. Welcome back to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. Tui. Our guest this morning, Susan Hoblitt and her husband Larry Collins, 2 stalwarts up here working quietly, and sometimes not so quietly. Larry writes a little bit. And by the way, you folks read Facebook, you want to know what's going on in politics, just straighten you out. Now, the 3 Democrats that are out there listening, don't bother, because you're going to be upset. But no, seriously, Mr. Collins he's an articulate writer, and he sees through some of the smoking screen out there. If you're on Facebook, look him up. You'll enjoy it. Susan, we appreciate you and Larry being with us this morning. We haven't talked about your association with our great school, Lincoln College. Unfortunately, I got old and decided it was time to get out of the way. And I got out of the way, and we brought Susan Hoblitt back on board. And now she's chair of the board. And I want to tell you, seriously, your board appreciates your gentle and firm hand. Dr. Gerlach has been a circus juggler up there on the hill at Lincoln College. This COVID thing has thrown him curveball after fastball, and it's a real chore to keep all the balls in the air. And Susan stands ready at his shoulder to help on behalf of the Board of Trustees. So we thank you for your service there. Is there any one problem that you can talk about on the air that is bothering us at Lincoln College right now, besides this pandemic thing, which has greatly affected attendance. And of course, attendance is our lifeblood.
You know, I had the experience of Lincoln College myself back in the 1980s, and 100 years before that, my Hoblitt ancestors were involved with Lincoln College. So it has a special place, but I have experience as a student, as a farm kid, thinking, okay, what's after high school? I wasn't ready for the big college, I knew that, but I thought, well, maybe a Lincoln College. Well, one of the best decisions I ever made. Lincoln College is small, but it is mighty. It is amazing. I have seen it time and time again. We are so fortunate to have Lincoln College. Their standards are very high.
The thing that we have done, and one of the things that impressed me, Mrs. Hoblitt, is the adult education, and that's been a real boon to people who, for whatever reason, did not complete their college work as they began to work in their business careers, and then wanted and or needed, either way, to complete college work. And Lincoln College has made that possible for them to do that, which is a great thing in my judgment.
Because it's small, they can give their students a lot of personal attention. And I've been on the board since 2010. I've experienced a lot of presidents along the way for Lincoln College. When I had an experience where I walked across the campus with Dr. Gerlach. The students would walk by, he would greet them, he would know their name. They usually have some special little handshake they do or something. And he knows the students' names, they know him, he's available to them. The people at Lincoln College honestly know the students and focus on the student, and that makes all the difference.
And from his office, it's filtered down to at all levels on the college. I'm speaking now of those in the custodial staff, those on the dining room staff, the professors as they go about their daily work. Everyone has a good attitude, and they exemplify that just by when you walk by and a greeting. It's a warm atmosphere.
Wonderful, wonderful staff at Lincoln College. It's unbelievable. I've been in the cafeteria when the kids come in for lunch back in the day when they were having lunch at the cafeteria. There was this sweet lady there. I didn't know her name, but she knew the students' names. She would greet them, and as I noticed they were leaving the dining hall, they'd say, "Bye, Grandma," to here.
Now, where do you see that?
At the dining hall at Lincoln College.
Go to University of Illinois and try
yes.
or Northwestern or wherever. I mean, there's an intimacy that it's a spin-over, and the kids feel wanted as well as needed.
They are known for who they are here. They are watched. It's good things are expected from them, and they live up to it. They deliver. The students deliver.
Well, we appreciate you have an excellent board of trustees with which to work, and they respect you very much. And it's interesting to note that some of us have different backgrounds. Think of our friend Laura, who shared with us her childhood. Where would you find that out? You wouldn't find that out at the University of Illinois trustees, with no discredit to anybody who serves any large university as a trustee. But those are the little simple, intimate things that you learn, and you become closer as a result of that. Yeah.
I would just like to point out, too, that this coming May will be Lincoln College's 154th consecutive commencement. 154 consecutive commencements. Go Lincoln College.
That's a persistent person. It's on my cell phone, but I'm not reaching for it right now.
Nah.
Mr. Collins, among the many things that you do besides being a background and a chauffeur for Mrs. Hoblitt, you're interested in aviation.
Yes, sir.
And I find out this morning that you were an instructor, a private instructor in aviation.
Correct.
We talked about that. I thought something else maybe the old man could do in his dotage. And then I decided the dotage would be the right way, so I decided I wouldn't want to do that. I've always had the idea that it would be neat to learn to fly. My brother did that years ago as a teenager. And in fact, he used to fly a PT-19 around here all the time.
Oh.
And that was a small aircraft, Judith, that I'll explain to you on the way home after we stop at the Glendale Tap.
I'll be there.
I asked Mr. Collins what it would take, and he still does private instructions. Are you available, sir, if Johnny Appleseed from Burton View decides that he wants to learn to fly?
Well, if you wanted to learn to fly, what we do is I work with Heritage in Flight there at the airport.
Yes, okay.
And if you haven't been out to Heritage in Flight and looked through the museum, I would encourage you to go out and do that. Sometimes things are right under our nose and we don't have a full appreciation for them.
Yeah, you can go see my Air Force uniform out there.
you know, many things there in the museum that you can see, and if you want to make arrangements to make a tour, usually you can call a number and there will be somebody who'll come
And it wouldn't
out.
hurt if they dropped off a couple of bucks either.
Yeah, donations are welcome.
We can use that. So your work then in teaching pilot is through HIF,
Yes,
Heritage in
correct.
Flight. Yeah.
Right. Because we use that airplane for the instruction.
I see.
And there's a Cessna 172, which is the
Okay,
most
yeah.
popular airplane in the world.
Did you see that not too long? Oh, it's been some time ago now. They had the original Cessna ones. Oh, I know. It was on Mark McDonald's Illinois Stories.
Mm-hmm.
And a dentist, I think, over in Quincy, had an original 172.
Oh, really? Wow.
That's quite a
amazing.
story.
Yeah,
And he spent
it's-
some real money rebuilding the whole thing.
Yeah, the 172 is a very reliable airplane. It's basically easy to fly. And it's, as I say, the most popular airplane in the world. And that's saying something. And it's been around for decades and decades, so it's well-proven technology. And that's the airplane that we use for instruction. So, if someone were interested in that, they could, I guess they could give me a call or send me an email. Larry@larrycollins.us is my email. And I've been doing that for about 20 years or so. I've been a pilot since just before the Earth's crust had fully hardened. And my mother always warned us, now watch out for the dinosaurs.
That wasn't your runway.
No, but 1969, I got my private pilot certificate, and then over the years have done the advanced ratings and so forth. So, but anyway, it's fun
Good
to
for
teach
you.
people to fly. Some people have an aptitude for it, others don't.
Oh, no.
And one of the things I do is when you first arrive, I have them say, I say to them, would you just give me your car keys, please? And they hand them over, and then I say, okay, catch. And if they can't catch them, then
They have no coordination.
Right. Then I suggest they take up boating or
Oh, dear.
walking or something else.
Are you aware, Larry, that had a local pilot put a C-47 down Broadway? There's a lot of history during the Second War, yes.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Mark Hoblitt was his name, and he worked for Charlie Stringer, who was a photographer on the corner of the square there. And he notified Charlie Stringer that he was going to do this on such and such a day, and Charlie took his tripod and his fancy camera up there on the roof, and he captured pictures of Mark Holland tilting his wings as he flew down beneath the courthouse dome down Broadway from east to west.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And, it was quite an episode. I had a naval flyer tell me they ought to court-martial him. But
Yeah.
I think the naval fire was just jealous that he never thought about doing that, because I know both of them. Anyway, it was
Sounds
fun.
like a maneuver from Top Gun or something.
Yeah, well, it was, seriously. We're drifting around here, and we don't want to do that. Let's bring Susan back here to, yes, ma'am. Yes.
Can I say something?
Oh, Lord,
Do you have a minute?
I've done it again, Jim.
I'd like to ask you, Mrs. Hoblitt, please, about Hoblit seed. Even we who are non-agrarian know that there is Hoblit seed.
Yep.
What happened in your family that the people decided that, by George, we can perfect this in such a way that it can become a business? And what generation was this?
That was my father, Frank Hoblitt, and his brothers, Joe and Alec. What happened was they went to college. And at college, they first at the University of Illinois started hearing about this something new, a new adventure, right? Seed corn, the regular, as opposed to just regular field corn. This was, oh boy, this was the future. Then World War II happened.
Yeah.
They went to the war, came back, got their brains together again and said, hey, let's try to make a seed company. What do you think? Hey, sure, let's do it. Well, we need a processing plant. Well, they looked around the farm, and there were several barns around the farm. It's like, let's just move those barns together and put them all together and make a processing plant out of it. And we got a place to process the corn, to store the corn, to bring the corn in, dump it. It was a huge structure. And it had, at least, I was only allowed to go up 3 stories. I wasn't allowed to go any more than that, but it was 3 stories. And it had an elevator in it back in the day. It was built in the 40s, and it was an amazing place. And they made a success of it. They went for 60 years. So a lot of people worked there. A lot of people, it was their first job, was detasseling corn. I detasseled for 25 cents an hour and was thrilled to death.
And those kids were thrilled to get that in those days.
Oh, yes.
They worked hard for it. Gosh, my sister come home, she'd just be dragging.
Yeah, it's tough.
But she was proud.
Sometimes it was a child's first experience with hard work. I mean, it was hard work.
And hot work.
Hot work. The bugs jumped on you. The corn leaves cut you. But I think that's one thing about living on a farm, growing up on a farm, is you know about work. You do work. You see work. It's not like your dad leaves in the morning and comes back at night, and you don't know what happens in between there. No, we see it. We see everybody working hard, and that's a wonderful life lesson. You work, you earn money, and then you buy stuff.
Times and things have changed so much, but that remains constant, doesn't it? That the farm people are there, and you know what goes on from 9 to 5.
That is true.
It's no mystery.
I picked strawberries and peaches and, mowed grass, and you worked. That's what you did. Mm-hmm. And you didn't think twice about it. And I appreciate that life lesson. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I spent a lot of hours in the field behind the team, Larry, plowing corn. And I was so small, I had to sit forward in the seat to keep my feet in the stirrups, to keep the plowshares in the ground so they didn't bounce as the horse went down. And my mother was worried about that. My father said to her, "Don't worry, hard work never killed anybody." Mm-hmm. And he was exactly on target. And those are some of my real good memories, working with my grandfather out there in Burtonview. And I still have those kind of warm, fuzzy feeling today about that work that I did. And I learned a lot out there. Among other things, I learned how to take care of horses.
Yes.
I also learned how to make sure you're doggone sure that you never came in the house unless you daubed the plowshares with grease so that they wouldn't collect dew overnight and rust.
Yeah.
So, Susan, the Hoblitt family goes back so long and you have an indelible imprint here in Atlanta and Logan County, for that matter. The Hoblitt seed corn family was a really, as it started, it was a big, big deal. Not many people involved in seed corn at that time. By coincidence, right here in the same community, we had Mount Joy seed corn, and that was kind of unusual. And by coincidence, Mr. Ash, both the Mount Joys and the Hoblitt were fraternity brothers of mine at school.
Absolutely.
That's kind of another story. That's too long ago for me to recall that. But the seed corn business was a very big thing. And they had people out selling, farmers their brand of seed corn. And the planting of it and everything. It was a whole evolution of growing corn.
It was, and there was a gentleman by the name of Doc Mountjoy. All I ever knew him by, Doc Mountjoy. And a lot of common relatives here in this area. And Doc Mountjoy mentored my dad and his brothers, the Hoblitts, and he also mentored Joe Mountjoy. And they all went into the seed corn company. We're always friends.
What, Joe a mayor up here at one time, Atlanta? I'm not.
Joe Hoblitt was the mayor.
Joe Hoblitt, that's
Joe Hoblitt,
right.
yeah.
I remember that. Right. So go ahead, Mrs. Busby.
No,
I stepped on your
I
line,
just
and
wanted to
I'm sorry about that. I'll go out and hang my head in the field.
Oh, piffle. No, go ahead, Bill.
No, I'm just sitting here. I'm passing the lead to you. I just think I've earned my money today, so I'll let you carry us home.
You going to lay down on the job, huh? Now, you hear we were just talking about work ethic. It's a different kind of life on the farm, isn't it? Work ethic is kind of almost genetic. You have to work hard. You all have to work hard. You can't just excuse this one and that one. It's all together.
Well, I laughed about this business of daylight saving time when they started. One of the selling points on that was it gives the farmers more time to work. Well, that's a stupid thing. They work from sun up to sundown anyway. It didn't make any difference what the clock said. So, the fallacy of that never flew.
Now they all got lights on their tractors.
Well, yeah.
And they could farm way into the night.
Let me jump in here real
Please.
quick. There was the other evening I came home, and it was such a beautiful night. The moon was full, and I got home. It was a little late. It's probably 9:30 or after. And I said to Miss Susan, let's take a drive through the countryside. And so we got in the car, and we just drove slowly around Logan County and just looked at this magnificent area. The landscape, the full moon, you could see the farmers working in the fields with their bright lights and their tractors. And I thought, what a wonderful place to live. This is such a blessed area, agriculturally, and just the culture and the society here in this area is just truly quintessential American. Small town USA. This is an amazing place to live. And
What I'll tell you about his writing ability. Yeah, there you are. Now, folks, get on Facebook and read Mr. Collins' comments. He waxes philosophical today. Sometimes he cuts right to the chase and tells you where to find the real answers. Because there's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there, and somebody will smoke your mirror for you in a hurry if you don't have your eyes wide open. So,
well, I'm a traditional American. I believe in the Constitution and the basics of our founding, and that's where I come from. And I think it's a solid foundation. So that's what I seek to espouse and to defend. So
Don't you think that
basically it?
this part of the country is more apt to have those feelings
Sure.
than other parts?
It's natural, normal for people to want to be free and have some say about who governs them, and those are just basic tenets of our founding. Limited government, separation of powers, representative government. Those things are very important to, I think, the vast majority of Americans. And there are others, well-intended, who have a different view, who wish to update and modernize some of these things and change the form of government that we have so that we can move forward in a kind of a Darwinian approach of evolution. And that is the debate that we're having right now in America about which of those two schools of thought should actually prevail.
Which side are you betting on?
I'm betting on the constitutional people who love freedom and love the history of our Judeo-Christian ethic.
I just heard 2-3 phones quick shut, so they wouldn't have to listen to you.
That's okay. I mean, it's a robust debate, and everyone's entitled to their viewpoint and their opinion.
But you and I are right.
Well, you know, I think logic and common sense is on our side, Bill.
From your mouth to God's ear.
I'd like to think
That's my
common sense.
opinion, okay? Everyone's entitled to their opinion. And so,
Well, I have about a minute left, and once again, I've gone through the program, Mrs. Busby, with talking too much and didn't even announce
pitiful.
648-5510. Somebody might have a question of Susan Hoblitt or Larry Collins before we close off for the day. 648-5510. And be nice to them, because they're very nice folks, even though you don't like Larry's writings. But that's for the three of you out there that don't read very well.
That's okay.
All right. Susan Hoblitt, thank you for being with us. Larry Collins, thank you for sharing your
Pleasure.
time and being a good chauffeur for your wife. We appreciate you taking your time. You mean a lot to Logan County. Susan, your work with Lincoln College is extremely important. They need your kind of thinking up there and your quiet, demure hand helping Dave Gerlach, our president. Larry, thank you for being with us today and sharing your thoughts.
You're welcome.
I'm serious about this. You are an excellent writer.
Well, thank you, Bill. That's an honor to hear you say that. I have great respect for you and for your skills in communication as well. You do a great job here with this program and in other scenarios where you are called upon to speak.
And I'll sign off by apologizing to Mrs. Busby for talking too much again today. Thank you for Viewpoint.